Well, this story, in some ways, is very atypical because it starts in a kind of mystical way with me discovering that I have this affinity for the desert. And it's a little odd because I grew up in Brooklyn, and it's not a place that you think about it except for Brighton Beach, but I just somehow felt that that was the place where I was supposed to be. And maybe it was the wandering in the Sinai for 40 years of my people. I don't know. And that would explain my sense of direction also. And by the way, it's the second night of Rosh Hashanah, and if we had hell, I would be going to it. Unfortunately, we have a very ill-defined sense of that in Judaism. So. But anyway, I didn't quite understand where I came up with this desert affinity, but it was there somehow from the beginning. But I did understand, or at least I knew the first time that I bonded with a desert creature. And that was in Tunisia in the 1970s. I had a trip with my ex-husband. We went to this market in the middle of nowhere, Tunisia, and it was a camel market. And I'd seen camels before. I'd been to the zoo, and nothing. Just didn't do anything for me. The bears, the camels, the lions, they were just there. But seeing them somehow in their natural environment, the big eyelashes for the dust and the big eyes, and they were graceful yet goofy, and like I said, it's a story that doesn't make all that much sense, but I just suddenly fell in love with camels, so there it was. But there wasn't much I could do with it. I was going back to Brooklyn. I was going to graduate school. So I became interested in surrogate camels. I began collecting camels. And it's always a mistake if you do like an animal, frogs, camels, hummingbirds, whatever, and you tell people, they're going to give you that item for the rest of your life, whether you want it or not. So I acquired some really unattractive looking camels. But I also acquired some camels that I really liked. My favorite was an inkwell. Not that it's particularly useful in this day and age to have an inkwell, but the hump came off and you could ink in there. If I had a quill pen, it would have been perfect. Anyway, I still have that. I love that camel, but now this is a little embarrassing. But what I really, my camel artifacts that I really acquired came from smoking camel cigarettes. Now, I'm not going to blame it on the camels that I was smoking. I was already smoking, so I'm not going to go there. But I smoked Tarrytons, and suddenly this camel affinity got me, and this was, I don't know when it started that they had this promotion for Camel Cash, but on the back of non-filtered, on camel packs that had filters, they had coupons, and you could bring the coupons, you collected them, and you exchanged them for prizes, camel-related prizes. And, it was tins and boxes and lighters and, camel artifacts, but they were very classic looking. I don't know if most of you have seen a camel pack. And they had, the camel against the pyramids, few palm trees, very tasteful. So I was kind of pleased about this. So I collected camel items, camel memorabilia, and then I don't know when it started. Actually, I looked it up today. It was 1987. R.J. Reynolds started the Joe Camel promotion. And I don't know if any of you remember Joe Camel, but he's not an attractive camel. And people said that he looked kind of phallic. I don't think that was necessarily the problem, but one of the problems with Joe was that he was a cartoon character, and people discovered 4 years after the fact of introducing Joe Camel that kids 5 to 6 years old could identify Joe Camel before they could identify Mickey Mouse or even Barbie. So the American Medical Association wasn't happy. I didn't like Joe Camel because I thought he was ugly, but I just want you to know that I am wearing today probably the last Joe Camel t-shirt that I got with Camel Cash. I don't know if you can see it, but it is a pack of camels. They're really very unattractive if you look at them. It's camel in shirt. So anyway, this was my experience with, this is such a New York story. Everybody's talking about animals in the wild. I'm talking about smoking cigarettes and, getting Camel Cash. You know what they say about taking the girl out of New York. Anyway, but I proceed and, after camels and watching films like Lawrence of Arabia over and over again, and that does have something to do with Peter O'Toole looking really good in it, but there were camels. And there was a book called Tracks by Robin Davidson. She talks about taming camels in the outback. And finally, I moved to Manhattan. I get a job at Fromer's Travel Guides, and I get to update the Fromer's Guide to Egypt. And there I go into, the heartland of camels. I'm going to write about Cairo, and so I go to the pyramids, and I think, I'm bound to find a camel outfitter I can take a ride and, have this experience. So I go there, and Giza, where the pyramids are, is kind of at the edge of, it's a suburb of Cairo, so it's not the most savory place. You go in one direction, it's the desert, and it's absolutely beautiful, the pictures you see on the camel packs and everywhere else. And, this big, wide open desert, and then, you turn around. So anyway, there are lurkers, men with camels, looking for people like me who are on camel rides. So I realize this is not, my romantic idea of riding off into the sunset on a camel, but I do get the camel. Well, I picked the guy who looks the least unsavory. And I have to say, I have defended camels' reputations over the years because people say they spit and they're unruly and, they're mean. But really it's because they get beaten by people like, the guys by the pyramids. But anyway, this camel the guy I chose the camel looked depressed. The guy looked unsavory. But, I worked with what I had, so I go there and, you have to get the camel to lean down, because camels are really tall, so I ended up, the camel's kneeling down, and the guy is helping me up, but for some reason he thinks that my breasts need to be involved in helping me along with this. So anyway, I'm up there on the camel, looking out into what's not the desert and the pyramids, with this guy helping me, trying to sell me antiquities. And so anyway, I know it's going to happen again when I get down, and sure enough. So this was not my camel experience of my dreams, but okay. So I moved to Arizona. There are more opportunities for camels. Historical camel opportunities mostly. There's a camel cavalry that was established in Texas, and the camels in Yuma, which is another story that I won't go into. And then there's this is related to the camel cavalry. In Portside, there's a monument to a camel driver from the camel cavalry, whose name is his name was Haj Ali, but the monument is to Haj Ali. So, that's how they translated it. So anyway, I had some camel opportunities, but they weren't what I was hoping for. And finally, I got an assignment. I'm a travel writer now full time, and I have an assignment for Brides Magazine to go to Australia. Well, this is very exciting. It's, I get to go to the outback like Robin Davidson and Tracks, except that, I'm not taming wild camels, but still, I'm there. And there's this site called the Lulu, used to be Ayers Rock, and so I'm going there, and there was a camel outfitter, looked very nice. They advertised this camel caravan ride, and cocktail reception afterwards, and I thought, great. So, the camels are lovely. They're just nice-looking camels. They, not like the camels in Egypt by, the unsavory guys. These are really nice-looking camels. They're clean, they're happy. We go on this caravan. They all have names. It's Omar, Abdul, Fatima. You get to know your camel. I'm riding Mohammed. It's really nice. It's a very nice experience. So, I thought, this is it. I have bonded with my camel. And this is it. I can leave happy. I'm still going to love these camels, but I can leave and say this is the ultimate camel experience. Well, this cocktail reception afterwards, it wasn't cocktails, this being Australia, it was beer. But, so they're walking around with pints and they're serving this plate of hors d'oeuvres. And they said, by the way, this half of the business is camel life, but the bulk of our business is selling camel meat. and this is what we have for you to try. And I just thought, this is so wrong. I get it. There's a cultural thing that, some places eat horse, some places eat camel, but if you're in France, which has horse butchers, you're not going to take your horseback riding and then get your horse. No. So I don't know why they were doing this in Australia. Here I bonded with Mohammed and his cousin is on the plane. Anyway, I did not try camel. I was disgusted and I went away. So I am on continued quest for the perfect camel bonding experience that doesn't involve being filled up by unsavory men or having to eat my cousin, the cousin of my camel. So if any of you know anything about a really good camel experience, please let me know.